guys, so today for our middle split stretching, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to use the pole again for stretching. So you've seen some of these before, but we're going to get extra into our hip flexors, which is a lot of front folding. So it's going to be a great time. Let's get started. So we're gonna start with an extension on the pole. We're just gonna lift our leg up there and stretch out our middle splits against the pole. This is me trying to figure out how to do a spatchcock. We get there at the end. I'll go more into detail about what that is later, but we just wanna start by opening up the hips and using the pole as a means to do that, to open up our straddle. While stretching out the middle splits, it never hurts to stretch out your back a bit, just so your hips can kind of recalibrate. And this is me stretching out my shoulders as well. I just like to get into my full body even when I'm focusing on just one element of my body. It never hurts to get all into your body. Okay, so this time I'm starting with a front split. I'm sliding into a front split against the pole and hooking my toe on the pole to balance, pulling my legs closer in, and then rotating my hips into a straddle. This is great to open up your hips, to get that hip rotation to go from one split to the next. I'm then scooting my foot out to try again to spatchcock. Again, this is not how you do it. I figured it out at the end, but it is still a great way to stretch out your middle splits, which is why I kept it in. So you can see more ways to stretch out those hamstrings. And then as always, we go to the other side to do the other side as well, to balance it out. This is obviously my weaker side, but going into the front split and stretching it out against the pole, focusing on bringing those thighs to the pole and then rotating it open into a straddle for better hip rotation. And then here I go into the spatchcock. We'll go more into that later. So next I decided to do some floor stretching to get deeper into my hips. Went ahead and went into a straddle and put my arms behind my legs to get deeper into that pancake, and then dropped down into a middle split, which you can't really see. And then went back to the pole, went back into a straddle. These are great to help with extensions and building up those thigh muscles. Again, more times at the spatchcock, but really just focusing on stretching out that straddle and working on strengthening those thigh muscles. So next I decided to go ahead and bring my hands down to the floor, but then reach between my legs to stretch more in my forward fold. And then I went ahead to go back to stretching out my front split, but upside down this time. And from here, I decided to work on turning it to open up to a straddle, but upside down. So same concept as before, but upside down, just to get into more muscles. Well, at least when I'm not falling over. And then I went into a little cross-legged thing to stretch out the outside of my hip, because when you are stretching your straddle a lot, you want to stretch the outside too so you don't pull anything. So then I went back into my straddle. It's getting deeper, which is nicer, and really stretching better. And just holding the stretch is really, really helpful. And then making sure to do both sides, just so that way you're really getting into building both thigh muscles. That can help for extensions later. You can even wrap your arm in front of the pole and behind the thigh to hold it without having to hold the pole. Then I decided to go back into more front splits, but upside down. And again, I decided to turn it open so that I would stretch my straddle, but from a different angle. And then I pull myself up to stretch my straddle from the same angle, but even releve, get more into my calves and control it on the way down to really strengthen those thigh muscles. And then again, doing it on the other side. So here I get into the spatchcock. The way you do it is you bring your head in front of the pole, then bring your bottom arm in front of the pole, bottom shoulder in front of the pole, and then top arm and top shoulder. And to get out, you just unhook the leg and control it down. This is actually more of a forward fold stretch, not a middle split stretch. But it does open up the hips a lot, and that was why it wasn't working for me before, because I thought it was dependent on my middle splits flexibility, but it was actually dependent on my forward fold and just getting into it properly by putting my head in first. But I did stretch out my middle splits quite a bit in the process of trying to figure it out. So next I decided to just purely focus on my middle splits. After all that, I went ahead and slid down into a straddle, did a couple side bends. It's always nice to stretch out multiple parts of the body, even if you're focused on one. And then went ahead and held my pancake stretch and just really settled into those hips, rocked it back and forth. And then, as always, I decided to slide into my middle splits and hold that for a bit. And then come out of it by going into a frog. If you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next week for some more middle split stretching.